Good afternoon. So in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to lay acrylic like a pro. We are going to do the 3-ball method, the 2-ball method, and the 1-ball method. My powder here. I also have my monomer. We are going to pretend that this is a finger, and I also have a towel and a paper towel. Now let's just go into some of the things that I have. I like to use a towel under the paper towel just because the towel is going to absorb some of the monomer, so that I'm not using a lot of paper towels, which is cost effective because I can use less paper towels to wipe my brush. And because this towel is absorbing most of that moisture, the monomer, I'm going to be able to wash this towel and reuse it and then throw away this piece of paper towel. So that's one of the things that we do in the salon to keep our overhead costs down, is we place a towel underneath the paper towel to help absorb some of that moisture so that we don't run through a lot of paper towels. So let's begin by doing the 3-ball method. Before we get into actually applying the acrylic, I want to kind of show you how to hold your client's finger. So if this was our client's finger and we are placing our acrylic on the finger, we kind of want to hold it in a downward position. Just because we want gravity to help with the flow of pulling that acrylic down the nail. So I'm going to show you. So I'm going to dip my brush in the primer. And then I'm going to come over to my acrylic. And I'm going to grab a bead. Okay, once I have my bead, I'm then going to place it onto the nail. And if I hold that nail down, you can now see that gravity is somewhat pushing that acrylic bead down the nail. And I'm just going to come and pat that down and into position. Now, once I get it to where I don't want it to run down the bed anymore, I'm going to hold the nail flat up. More of a horizontal position instead of a vertical position, because I don't want it to run down the nail bed anymore. I'm going to re-wet my brush, and I'm going to come in and smooth that acrylic out on this side a little bit more. The reason why I'm taking the brush in an upward motion is because I want to pat that acrylic down so that it doesn't become bulky and create a ridge at the bottom of the nail. Now, will I have to do that every time? Probably not, but I could already tell that the acrylic was starting to bulk up at the bottom of the nail. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to grab my second bead of acrylic. So I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to grab another bead, which will be a tad bit smaller than the first bead that I grabbed. And I'm going to place that on the nail as well, holding that nail down so that gravity helps that acrylic slide down. I'm also going to come and clean up my sidewalls as I go down the nail. I'm going to re-wet my brush because it is starting to get dried out, and it is the monomer that helps move that powder into place. And I'm just going to come and take the belly of my brush and smooth that down and into place. I'm now going to hold the nail horizontally instead of vertically because I don't want the product to continue to run. And I'm just going to make sure that's smooth before I go and place my next ball. Okay, so we are ready to lay our third bead of acrylic. Once again, I'm going to wet my brush. This time when I grab a bead of acrylic, it's going to be way smaller than the other beads because we are now entering into the cuticle zone. So I'm going to place that bead down, and I'm actually going to push up to where I want it to lay in the cuticle area. And I'm just going to come down and I'm going to slide that product down the nail. I'm going to come and clean up where it's starting to spread too much. Re-wet my brush. So the reason why I chose to use a colored acrylic instead of a clear acrylic, because it's a little bit easier for me to show you places that we need to correct before we move on to the next nail. So if we look at this nail, for one, you can see that there is a dent in between here. Let me see if I can show you that. So right here, there's a dent where there needs to be more acrylic added. So what we're going to do is, if you have that issue when you're laying your acrylic, we're going to take another bead of acrylic. And we're just going to place it into the area where the dent is. I'm going to come down and smooth it. And now you can see I've created another layer of where the acrylic is not smoothed down. So I'm just going to come and drag that. I need to re-wet my brush to get the product to move. So now I'm going to drag that in an upward motion. And that fixes that dent that was there, okay? On the side wall, we can see where there needs to be more acrylic added there. So I'm going to come in with a very small bead, and I'm just going to place it in the area where it needs to go. I'm going to let that set for a second, and then I'm going to come and smooth it out. Okay, so one more area that we're going to look at that we need to fix before we move on is down here. As you can see, there's not enough acrylic on this edge. So we're going to do the same technique that we used to fix that side wall, which is we're going to dip our brush. And we're going to get a small bead, a very small bead. And we're going to place it in that area. And then we're going to push it up to help smooth it. I'm going to re-wet my brush because it's gotten dry. And I'm just going to help smooth that out a tad bit more by pulling it upwards. I'm going to pat to make sure I have a nice crisp line. I'm going to come up and clean my side walls as well. And that nail is completed.